Hey guys, who needs meta here? Long time no see, right? So I just wanted to come to you today with a brief Electromagnet Warrior deck profile. Sticking with the whole who needs meta ideal, I decided not to go with ABCs and instead try the other structure deck out. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the deck and maybe a crucial key combo or two at the end. One thing to keep in mind is this is probably the budget list. For the most part, the monsters and spells are the same as you'd use, regardless of the amount of money you want to spend on this deck, but the traps and definitely the extra deck could be, I don't know, enhanced depending on how much you want to spend on the deck. So just getting right into it, we're going to be playing playsets of all of the key Electromagnet Warriors. Alright, these guys are the core of the deck, the reason it works, what it revolves around, so I feel like that deserves no further explaining. It's nice that they get their effects when they're normal or special summoned, and that way I like that they're a little faster than ABCs, just the monsters themselves in that way. Although in this version of the deck, I never use their tributing effect on your opponent's turn. I don't run any of the level 4s. To complement those, I run 2 Berserkion. I feel like 3 is a little cloggy. 2 seems to be just the right amount, and you can always get them back with something I teched in a little later. So anyway, moving on. To complement the rest of the level 3s, I play 1 Sentry Soldier of the Stone. I don't feel like any more than that is necessary, considering this effect is only usable once per turn, regardless of how many you have, so I feel like 1 is just right, and it makes for some really nice rank 3 plays. I play 2 Block Golem for some, I don't know, some cheeky rank 3 plays. Most of the time you have just rocks in the graveyard, or just earths rather. So he's live, but he isn't always, so that's why I only run 2. And in the opening hand, he's kind of cloggy as well, so that's for that. And to help get the deck started, I do run the Brilliant Fusion engine. I run Lapis instead of Obsidian purely because I had Lapises on hand. If you want to run Obsidian, he's also a level 3 Earth Rock type monster, and it has like 1500 attack, so you get more attack that way, but that is the only difference. To finish up the monster lineup, I run 3 of our new card from Invasion, Doki Doki. This card really helps your turn 1 hands and makes Magnet Field much less dead going turn 1, which this deck does tend to like to do given all of these setup cards that you run, as you will see. And getting into those, I do run 3 of the field spell, Magnet Field, as well as 2 Terraformings to help get them out. I personally feel like Magnet Field is much more of a utility card than Union Hanger, purely because it helps recur your monsters later in the game, and that it turns all of your rock monsters into grand moles once per turn is very amazing for getting out of situations where you can't do anything about an untargetable monster like Cosmos. Really love the field spell. But that's that. Getting into the setup cards, I do play 3 Brilliant Fusions. The consistency in this deck is really helped by this card. Dumping any of your Magnet Warriors into the grave to recur with Magnet Field, or dumping Sentry Soldier of Stone just for a free summon on that is very good. And the level 8 rock monster that you can bring out, Zirconia, is also sometimes pretty relevant. I run 3 Ties of the Bretheren as well. One of the few non-budget cards in this deck, even though a playset for 25-30 bucks isn't going to break you. I feel like this card is essential and is one of the main reasons you want to go first with this deck if you can, given that you can't conduct your battle phase or special summon the rest of the turn after you use it, but it's incredible to use on any of your level 3 Earth Rock monsters. You could use it on a Sentry Soldier, you could use it on a Gem Knight Lapis, you could use it on Block Golem, or any of the Electromagnets to bring out 2 other ones. And normally if you just summon one regardless of whatever it is, use Ties on it, you'll net probably +3 on it on an average turn. But I'll show you the ideal hand later which is just Brilliant Fusion and Ties of the Bretheren, and that in itself is a +4 combo. To wrap up the spells, I do play 1 Upstart Goblin, and that's it, just to help with consistency. As I mentioned briefly, the trap lineup is pretty variable depending on your budget for the deck. So I run a bunch of reactive one-ofs in the form of Bottomless, Vanity's Torrential, as well as Compulse, mostly to hit ABCs, the Buster Dragon on their turn. Also Warning. I run 2 breakthrough skills to help negate effects that are really annoying, such as Infinity and so forth. And the last trap card is actually 2 of Triamid Pulse, which is a tech card of mine that I'm really liking and helps you solidify the grind game if you end up in it. So I don't know if you can read, but once per turn you can banish 2 cards from your graveyard, any combination of rock-type monsters or field spell cards, which is sometimes relevant. And then you can either pop a face-up card on the field, special summon a rock monster in defense position, both of which are very good. The first of which is reactive, the second of which is very good for bringing back your dead Berserkions if you already summoned it properly but it ended up in the grave without getting its effect off, or even Gem Knight Zirconia if you're feeling a little cheeky. But it's a little slow in the opening hand. With Brilliant Fusion activated, it does make this a little bit more alive, even first turn. But I find it very good and very worthwhile to run, despite the clogging on the first turn sometimes. To wrap it up, for the extra deck, 2 Gem Knight Zirconias for the Brilliant Fusions, and 3 Gorgonic Guardian. Essentially the main reason you run this version of the deck, so that you can rank 3 spam out Gorgonic Guardian, which is an amazing rank 3 that you have access to given that you're all rocks. The once per turn during either player's turn effect is amazing and helps you control the board very well. And the other effect is extremely relevant on your turn to pop a monster that has 0 attack. Essentially, these are the only 5 cards in the extra deck that you absolutely need. Everything else is fluff. You can spend whatever you want on the rest of it. For example, since I don't have Breaksword, I'm running Engineer instead. I would run Levier if you can, purely because bringing back some of your banished Magnet Warriors and getting their effects off is still pretty good. Grand Pulse for Spell and Trap hate. Nightmare Shark to help get over boards that are way too established for you to deal with, but if you have enough to poke for game, that card is actually surprisingly useful. To go into the last one, I do play Acid Golem in case you can beat over something. I do run rank 8s for the occasional Berserkion into Gem Knight Zirconia play. I run Lancelot, run Alcei, and I run Harbinger, very good at rank 8, as I'm sure everybody knows by now. And I also run the Armor Photon Dragon engine here, whatever that is, to help beat over some untargetables, such as Blue Eyes' Chaos Max Dragon and those kind of monsters. That wraps up all of the monsters. Real quick, that combo I wanted to show you guys that ended up being a +4 with Ties and Brilliant Fusion. So, like I said, all you need to start out with is these from the spells, and you're ideally going to end up with a whole bunch of monsters in your hand, and I'll show you how. So regardless of what the rest of your hand is, activate Brilliant Fusion, Fusion Summon your Zirconia by sending your Lapis and your Sentry. Alright. Over here, you have a rock monster on the field, and they're the only monsters you control, so you can special summon Sentry. Activate Ties of the Bretheren on Sentry, and then special summon Alpha and Beta. Activate their effects. Add to hand Gamma, so you have the 3rd monster, and add to hand Berserkion. So therefore, you started with these 2 cards, ended up with 4 on field and 2 in hand, which is realistically actually much more than just a +4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total from just those 2 cards. The rest of your hand could be traps, the rest of your hand could be any amount of uselessness, but I find it to be a very good combo and one of the best starting positions you can put yourself in with this deck. And the main reason you would like to go first, so that you can do all that setup without your opponent being able to do anything about it. Doki Doki opens up some good first turn plays too if you have the field spell, given that you can pitch any one of your level 3s to special any other one, and then with that 1 discarded card that you have in the graveyard, you can play the field spell, bring it back, and overlay for Gorgonic Guardian first turn. So, very crude profile, guys. It's a little rushed in the end here, but I feel like the deck list itself is pretty solid. Let me know what everybody thinks. I have a lot of fun with this deck. I don't think it's tier 1 or anything, but I think it's definitely good enough and consistent enough that you could have some decent fun with it. Enjoy, guys. Take care.